Hi, everyone, and welcome to a live edition of the Ethicast, coming to you from Atlanta, Georgia at the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. And a final shout out to all of our friends who've been attending live and watching the Ethicast live. We're so glad you've been with us. Thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you've had an extraordinary experience. Well, I am super excited because I get to talk with my colleague, Doug Allen from Data Services. Doug is the man of all things culture, and we're going to talk about the ethical culture accelerator, which is sort of a big speaking point within Ethisphere. Doug, the big news on the culture front here is the ECA, right? So can you please tell me what it's all about and why is your team so excited about it?
Yeah, for sure, Bill. Great to be with you again. By the way, before we get to ECA, 16th annual.
Yeah,
it's crazy.
It's crazy. It's an institution, right?
It is, and it's I know it seems kind of cliche. It's getting better every year.
The
energy
is.
This year was fantastic. The partners we had a chance to work with, the sessions, it's all fantastic. So somehow it keeps getting better. Full compliment to the events team, but yeah,
absolutely.
Ethics Culture Accelerator. So really excited about that. So we are, in an effort to serve more organizations around the world, we're trying to get our expertise in a way that we can scale it in a valuable way for our customers. Okay. And so we've envisioned what we call the Ethics Culture Accelerator, which is our new forthcoming culture platform. Planning to be released in its first iteration in about 2 months' time.
Okay.
Where we are going to take the great culture experience of measuring, improving one's ethical culture in a unified platform.
Yeah.
And so we've got a great product team, engineering team supporting us. Shout to Jess Ritchie and company, who are hard at work always in helping us build these products. But
she makes the magic happen.
She really does, somehow, some way. But we're taking the concept again of how we measure culture and putting it in a platform that folks can drive themselves. They can do this in a way that scales with their own departments and organizations, in a way that they can capture more feedback more frequently. In a much more detailed way. So that, in a very convoluted sense, is kind of a description of it. But bottom line is, really excited and for things to come this year.
So Ethisphere has got this fantastic culture survey offering that we've had in a long time. I know it's not going anywhere.
I'm biased, but yes, agreed.
But I do want to speak to about the ECA. Can you talk a little bit about the why of the ECA? Like what opportunity had you sensed over the course of doing all that really meaningful work with so many organizations and building this massive database of culture data that's so helpful, so valuable? Where did the genesis of the ECA come from in terms of, this is going to offer a special, different kind of value to our community?
Yeah, it's, as I mentioned before, Bill, we really want to be able to serve more organizations in this way. So this platform allows us to get our culture expertise into more folks' hands. But also, one point of feedback that many of you have probably articulated, or Bill, you've heard too, as part of these conversations, is our ethical culture assessment we do today it's a great way to set that foundation of how your employees feel about your program and ethical culture overall. But how do we take more regular touch points of that? And so this ECA, for short, Ethical Culture Accelerator platform, allows folks to dive into pulse surveys on a more regular basis. It allows them to do topical assessments focused on perhaps opportunities found in the big assessment they've run with us. And again, in a way that they can do it more frequently and to act and improve more frequently as well. So it's through technology, we can take our process and our team and scale it in a way that we haven't been able to do before.
But just to be very, very clear, because I know there are folks out there who have been making regular use of Ethisphere's, culture survey services. They're super fans of it. It's part of their strategy. That's not going anywhere, correct?
No. We continue to offer the same ethical culture service that we always have.
Indeed.
Right? It's as you know, Bill, we work with companies around the world, and every company really is unique. They've got some have manufacturing presences, others are on cruise ships, some have retail environments. We work hand in hand with these customers to figure out what's the best approach. And so, Ethisphere, our culture team is the strongest it's ever been. If I may, a shout out to Emily and Malta, Katie, Curtis, and all those who are both here and could not make it, but we got a great team supporting the work we do day in, day out.
Agree wholeheartedly.
And it's we continue to bring that team to bear in all of our projects, supported by Leslie Benton and her leadership and the team behind our program assessment work to lend their expertise in coming up with recommendations and content as well. So the same great team delivering the same great services always, but now we have a new way in which more companies can engage with us on measuring culture.
So, Doug, let me ask you kind of a top of the mountain question, because in your position, you've got a really fantastic perspective on just all things, culture and culture measurement. And this has been kind of a meta theme at this conference, and at the summit. Look, there's no other way to put it. We are in turbulent times, and it seems like culture itself is at a premium. I'd love to get your thoughts on how important in this current environment that we find ourselves in, where ethics and compliance teams are seeing the value of what they do changing, perhaps questioned, where the value of a strong culture is really present. Do you see a greater onus on the importance of measuring culture and really having a firm understanding of, is your culture as strong as you hope or think it is?
Yeah. So do we think it's the perceptions of the value of measuring culture? Has it changed?
Yeah.
In other words. Yeah. So we spend a lot of time thinking about and helping organizations figure out sort of, why are we doing this in the first place?
Sure.
You've got to understand, right, where you're coming from. To that end, we've had a chance to partner with some very smart people at Arizona State University who have helped dig into our data through their through the business school, WP Carey Business School, and the researchers to figure out, is there a business case to be made from what we're seeing in our culture data?
Sure. Yeah.
And we shared this before, not as broadly as I'd like, but we found that for those organizations who administer our culture assessment and who score one standard deviation above average and are using our methodology, those organizations have about almost a 40% higher return on assets than those who don't.
Okay.
So we're seeing through our own analysis and research a real business case that organizations who are outperforming from a cultural standpoint from what we see are tied very closely to those outperforming in a business perspective. And for return on assets, for those who may be unfamiliar, it's really a strong efficiency measure of how are you converting the assets you have into revenue.
Yeah.
And so you can imagine that those organizations with strong cultures, as we measure it, are those that have high trust environments. So you reduce the friction and cost behind relationships, behind transactions. You've got stronger vendor partnerships. You've got an employee base who's willing to stick around with you longer.
Yeah.
Those costs add up.
Yeah.
And we think through our culture measurements, we get a good reflection of how that's measured. And we're seeing that in the data now too. So the value story is as clear as it's ever been. The ECCP updates from last year continue to put an emphasis on how you're measuring it. Regulators want to know. The story's always been there, but now we're pulling in more financial data and business data to make the case more broadly. The compliance people here understand why. Yeah. It's how do we equip them to make the business case more broadly? And that's what we're here to do.
Fantastic. Well, for folks who are learning about the ECA and they're going, you know what, this is right up my alley. I really want to take action on this. What do you recommend for folks out there as next steps?
Yeah. Get a hold of me. Please email me directly. I don't know if there's a way to get my email address, Bill.
No, for sure.
Part of this, but Douglas at Allen Ethisphere, I'd love to hear from all those in the community who are interested. We've got a great team that we'll set you up with, and we want to hear more. And really, as I'd mentioned, we're putting this platform together. We've got a great version that's functioning today. We want to put that in front of our Bella community and give us their reactions. So if you're willing to kind of speak up and kind of provide some feedback, we'd love to hear it as well.
Absolutely. And anybody who's interested in the culture work that Ethisphere does, just go to ethisphere.com/solutions, and you'll find yourself on a super highway right to the culture team, and you get to learn anything you want to learn about this amazing crew of professionals.
And then some.
And then some. So, Doug, it is a pleasure having you back in the Ethicast as always. Thank you so much for coming on and talking about the ECA.
Very good. Thanks, Bill.
Well, everyone, thank you so very much for watching another episode of the Ethicast here in Atlanta at the 16th Annual Global Ethics Summit. Thank you so much for watching us. We hope we've had a great time, and we'll see you again soon. Bye now.